Okay. Now it's June 17th, early in the morning. And we are going to read. See, I have to color code it because I can't see it. We're going to read 146 to 151 because it wasn't pages, it was numbers that were listed on my notice of civil claim. This is not sticking. And, oh my, I had this there. So I could just quickly go to it. And now I can't find it. So hold on a minute. Okay, so is number 15 on there? Whatever this thing is. They're asking the court to throw it out. And I'm thinking that they're using the court cases that Fraser Health Authority used because CUPE sounds familiar. That tobacco company sounds familiar. That's what Andrew the Dragon with Fraser Health Authority was using in course in case law, right? So I have to get those and cross-reference and see if this individual is using the same case law that Andrew the Dragon has already used. So in the meantime, we're going to read number 15, okay, where it talks about paragraphs. Honestly, I don't see. When I first wrote the notice of civil claim, I could honestly say that I probably put in paragraphs per number. After I was critiqued and told to amend it and bring it down to 1 point at a time per number, I would like to think that they're sentences and not paragraphs. But it's been a while since I read my notice of claim for the more recent one that I'll have to double check on that. Because if they're sentences and they're suggesting that they're paragraphs, then right there they're being misleading. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. Now, I've been struggling with a headache for about 4 days now. I feel it coming on again. So let's stay focused. I'm not putting this backlight behind me because it tends to glare. And it's not like it helps me anyway. I'll just use this. Okay, you ready? All right. The plaintiff purports to make a claim on behalf of various members of the Chorney family for, among other things, to order a proper and full investigation into the murder of SHAMAY Chorney and to the cover-up of her murder, I hope you can hear me, so that illegal organ harvesting could occur. The plaintiff alleges at paragraph 46 to 146 to 151 of the Notice of Civil Claim that the province uses hospitals to illegally harvest organs, uses its employees to carry out heinous crimes, participate in witchcraft and sadism. The Chorney family and Mr. John Duncan, and endorses gang stalking behavior against them. Well, they're not taking organs out in butcher shops. Okay? And it's just not random people that take out organs from bodies. Okay? You have to have some training in that. All right? And it's one thing taking them out and having no place to ship them to. We know they're being shipped off somewhere, okay? And something else is being done with them. And we know that at some point in December of 2018, the federal government of Canada removed witchcraft in terms of it's illegal to practice sorcery that is fake, and whatever else that was under that section, under the Criminal Code of Canada. They removed the whole section because somewhere along the line, people have accepted Satanism to be a legitimate religion. Otherwise, they would have kept that section in the Criminal Code of Canada and prevented it from proliferating, to which it's now infiltrated our governments and our public union sector. For how long and how deep it's infiltrated it, I don't know. But it doesn't help when the federal government condones it. Okay? It takes a pretty dark person to illegally harvest organs from somebody that was murdered and then go out of their way to cover up the whole thing in terms of the murder and the harvesting of the organs illegally. It takes a pretty dark person, well, persons, more than one, to do that kind of stuff. So they're spot on. Anyway, now I'm going to go and I'm just going to read what I wrote in regards to the quote-unquote paragraphs that this individual is drawing upon. I marked it with my sticky paper, so I should be able to find it. To which it's right there. Okay? And the notice of civil claim itself, in light of those 140 pages that had a whole bunch of lines drawn through them, is only 18 pages. So there's not too many paragraphs in there, okay? That's the first thing. Now we're going to read number 146 in terms of a statement compared to it being a paragraph. I really want you to pay attention to this, okay, because I think it's important. The plaintiff alleges that the province of British Columbia, Canada, and its various ministries use public institutions such as hospitals to illegally harvest organs and other body parts at any given time as bodies are being transferred to these institutions, whether they are a dead person or alive. Because we don't really know, people, if all these individuals are really dead before they're booked in. We just don't know. Considering what they're doing in the underbelly of the beast, being that many of these individuals like to go to work with studs on their hands, doing hand signals to the cops as they're going in to check on a dead body and then walking out looking at a cell phone with a big smile on their face, okay? And that's what we call professional, okay? In regards to what happened to Sierra with those shenanigans, all right? with that body dude guy coming in with his studs as if he came from a biker gang or something. Some kind of gang. He was definitely involved with some kind of gang. Only certain kind of people wear that kind of shit, and never mind wear it to work yet. Okay? And what the hell was he looking at a cell phone for when he was there to pick up a dead body and the cops asking him if he got the stuff? Or did he get the cell? Which one? Was it, did he get the cell? Or did he get the stuff? Was he coming back? Well, I don't know. He's the guy that picks up the dead body. He wasn't walking out the door with the dead body. I mean, this is what I mean. And not only that, I read it was a one sentence, period. It was one sentence. I mean, I went out of my way to make them independent thoughts, sentence to sentence to sentence, and they've overblown it and casted another bad light by suggesting I was writing freaking paragraphs, to which should technically, considering who we're dealing with, bore the judge. Okay? I'll read it one more time, and you tell me how this is a paragraph. The plaintiff alleges that the province of British Columbia and its various ministries use public institutions such as hospitals to illegally harvest organs and other body parts at any given time as bodies are being transferred to these institutions, whether they are dead, whether they are a dead person or alive. That is a statement with basically a single thought. There is no run-on sentences in there because now I go to number 147. Okay? That was not a paragraph. That was a sentence. That was a statement. That's my experience with my children. So it's more than an allegation. It becomes a fact for me. The plaintiff, now we're on 147, okay? The plaintiff alleges that through failed legislation practices, the province of British Columbia and its various ministries do not monitor for corporate corruption carried out by its employees, and that the government endorses the activity to targeting vulnerable families, to whom the Chorney family, and including Mr. John Duncan, was one of those families to such gang-stalking behavior. That is another statement. There is no paragraph in there. The only thing that we got was a freaking comma, okay? I wrote that. That is not a paragraph. That is a statement that directly relates to my family. If the government was monitoring their employees, what happened to Uncle John wouldn't have happened. And so on and so on and so on and so on. So therefore the government endorses it, being that it's bringing in big ass fucking books with verbal diarrhea over and over and over and over and over and over again, like that freaking dead cat being run over back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You know? Like, come on. Number 148. The plaintiff alleges that the province of British Columbia and its various ministries fails to protect the residents of BC who have been assigned to be targeted, and uses energy weapons and psychological warfare tactics against innocent children, youth, adults, and the elderly for the end goal to commit heinous crimes as taxpayers unknowingly pay for it, being it is government employees who commit gang stalking and other related crimes to prop up the underground economy of illegal activity. That is not a paragraph. That is one sentence. One sentence. That has a basic one statement. One thought. Right? I have video recording of energy weapons going through my yard and going through my house. Okay? I have more than one. Right? All my kids have experienced psychological warfare for years and years and years. And I can pinpoint those years and what instigated that. Okay? And I do believe that certain families are, I don't want to say picked out of a hat, but when you want to target somebody, what's the best, or a family, preferably a family, right? You know, you're going to get into those welfare files, first of all, and you're going to look for the ones that you can target successfully without causing too much ruckus. If you target a rich family that has more money to fight back, more people to help them to fight back, more resource, whatever it is, that's going to be a little louder, you know. It's gonna ripple out more into the community because, you know, they can afford to fight back. But when you come into families like mine, no, we can't afford to fight back, people. We're cut off at every freaking intersection that we come into, okay? You can't get a lawyer to help you through pro bono. You can't get a lawyer to help you through legal aid. You can't even ask your family doctor to help you, okay? Right? You understand what I'm saying? You know, right? Right? You can't expect the government to help you. If the government doesn't want to help you, then what the hell is the government there for other than to target you? Okay? That's why I brought in my bank statements from 2002. December of 2002, January of 2003, February of 2003, March of 2003, to prove that I was illegally cut off of welfare. Okay, under legislation that hadn't even come into effect within 9 months of before it was supposed to. And even then, like I said, it was rescinded because it was going against the Charter of Human Rights of Canada and something else. And it took a freaking offshoot of a union through the Ministry of Social Development in those days, right? In terms of social assistance, it was their union that took the government to court because they couldn't deal with turning away people from much needed resources because the legislation came in from the United States of America under welfare reform. So the government ended up rescinding it. But even then, even if they wouldn't have, I still wouldn't have fell through the cracks with it because, like I said, the worst they could have done when that 9-month period finally showed up versus cutting me off 9 months before it came into effect, the worst they could have done was just take $100 off my welfare check versus cutting me off completely. And then denying me again in 2006 when I went back and tried to put another application in for social assistance as I was looking after that little girl for no money. Remember that, for no money, okay? Being held hostage to a shanty shack and a crazy landlady, all right? And then, you know what they told me? No. You have trust funds. Go cash out your trust funds. Come back to us when you have no trust funds left in terms for the children. So they denied me social assistance in 2006. And now we've got the NDP sending you shit in the freaking mail saying, oh, sign up with these trust funds. Don't worry. It's all good and dandy. You know, you're on welfare. That's fine. You're allowed to have a trust fund. Yeah, for how long, people? For how long until they come in and pull the fucking rug out from underneath your feet? Okay? Been there, done that. All right? Serious. That is not a paragraph. That is a sentence. A paragraph is sentence within sentence within sentence. Okay? That's a freaking paragraph. One sentence is not a paragraph. So why are you trying to mislead? Well, not why you, but why is this individual trying to mislead the court? Huh? Because that's just another method I don't know. I can't think of the word right now. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. 149. We're only reading to 151 or whatever it is. 149. The plaintiff... Okay, now, is this a paragraph or is this a sentence? The plaintiff alleges that the province of British Columbia and its various ministries, because it takes more than one, is a highly organized cartel that uses techniques that harvest the negative energy of its victims. Now, I know we're getting into Stephen King stuff, right? No, what we're doing is I'm putting it on the table. People talk about it, but never really stand up and fight against it. There are many, many people that acknowledge that it's happening, has been happening, have even gone out of their way and try and hold governments to account for it to happen. But because it's so elusive, right? Because it falls under that witchcraft, that mysterious heebie-jeebie shit, right? You know what I'm saying? It's hard to prove, right? But when you look at it from I guess my perspective, and you start connecting the dots, 2002, 2006, 2009, right? 2012, 2014, 15, 2018, you start to see the pattern. There's no denying it, right? And something's fueling it forward, and it sure isn't godly love. Let's just put it that way. Okay? Because there's nothing godly about what's been happening to my family at the hands of other people, mainly a lot of government employees, to which the government doesn't monitor, because for whatever reason, the government itself is benefiting. And, in my opinion, the government is the union, because you're only dealing with something like 89 MLAs compared to 5.6 million people in the province of British Columbia, Canada, where at best there might only be 800,000 provincial government employees. Not even that. Not even that. But if you had to add in the federal and the municipal, you might be pushing 800,000 employees out of 500 and government somehow connected to federal, municipal, or provincial paychecks compared to the 5.6 million people that live in this province. Okay. So yeah, out of that 800,000 having access to unlimited resources, access to unlimited institutions like hospitals and those kind of things, and the workforce to boot, they do become highly organized. And it's common knowledge that the government is in advance in terms of the technology that they're providing to us. They're already years in advance with technologies that we haven't even really seen yet. And if we have, we're told that we're crazy. But you see, that's the thing. Cameras don't lie. And when you got energy weapons going through your camera, because the camera can pick it up, right, then it gets a little harder for them to dispute it and call you crazy. As a means to say that they don't target nobody, even though I've got the bank statements to prove it. I'm just saying. The question is, are they going to look at those bank statements and acknowledge what that ministry at that time did to my family? And then expected me to look after a little girl without payment. And then deny me social assistance 3 years later, telling me I had to cash in my children's trust funds before I would qualify again to be able to have any kind of government safety net with 5 dependent children still at that time, maybe 4. Brooks probably aged out. But even Brooks couldn't go ask for help because of that legislation that they brought in from the States. I'm supposed to stay focused. We're supposed to determine whether this is a paragraph or a sentence. Let's start from the beginning, and I won't interrupt. Oh, okay. The plaintiff alleges that the province of British Columbia and the various ministries is a highly organized cartel that uses techniques that harvest the negative energy of its victims under a louche concept that breeds mayhem, dysfunction, and death for the victims to such attacks for the purpose so that government employees can gain financial wealth and power. One complete thought in a sentence. Why else would they do it? Why did those Punjabis women sit on John's bed, hovering around there, waiting for us to come in, and then stood there and glared at us and mocked and squirmed and just whatever, and then kind of just huffed off? Why? Why? What would provoke that other than their boss telling them to do that? Okay? So that they could harvest the negative energy that was coming off from the family due to our fear of what these people were doing to us as a whole. They wanted us to be fearful. They wanted us to be angry. They wanted us to be afraid. And they went out of their way to make it happen because they harvest the negative energy from that activity, which makes them feel more powerful, and more than likely they got a bonus for it. $150. The plaintiff alleges that the province of British Columbia participated in witchcraft and encourages its employees to carry out heinous crimes against those they target and to uphold the many rituals surrounding Satanism so that the public union sector as a whole can gain financial wealth and power. It takes a pretty dark person, more than one, to dote over a dead body for 9 days as they straight up lie to the family's face. Okay? That's just one example. And that was a sentence, not a paragraph. 151. The plaintiff alleges that the province of British Columbia and its various ministries knowingly targets the Chorney family. Well, yeah, like I said, I can take it all the way back to 2002 and further than that if I wanted to, people, okay? That relates directly to forced manufactured poverty. Well, for sure. I'm still paying something like 200 and I don't know how much, $240 or something just on my CIBC interest card, like credit card that I canceled soon after they took John. I just canceled the card. It was at 19 grand. I've got it down to 17 after 7 years, and I'm still paying over 200 and $20 or $30 a month in interest. That's just one example of that manufactured poverty, okay? That allows individuals who are employed by the government to target any person in the Chorney family at any given time to succeed at the end goal of destroying an innocent family as their organs and other body parts are being harvested out of their bodies, one body at a time. That was a sentence. It was to the point in regards to for every body that disappears, something is being harvested from it. Uncle John disappeared and his money was harvested. What they did with his body at 82 years old when he died, or however, he wasn't even 82. They took him in 2015 and he was 76 at the time, and he died in January of 2018, so 6, 7, 8, 9, so he was about 79 years old or so. That's when he died. I don't know what they did with his body when he died, but I'm pretty spot on with what they did with SHAMAY's body when she died, and you can almost guarantee they did the same thing to Sierra's body as well. So for the next one that dies in this family, we know their fate, okay? We know their fate, and we also know their pattern, right? Because if there was no pattern, I'd have nothing to talk about. And over a period of years, it does. It destroys innocent lives and innocent families. That's what it does. Well, it props up families that commit crimes so that they can run around in their fancy cars, live in their fancy houses, and go on and brag about how rich they are, okay? Or how honorable they are because they're a doctor. Yeah, well, we know what kind of doctor you really are. Why don't we subpoena the doctor that was doting over a dead body when it was on a hospital bed? Well, it wasn't a bed, people, for 9 days. Call him in as a witness. Seriously, because he's the one who took out the organs, people. Is the government going to dig that deep to really find the truth, or are they just going to try and cover it up? Just go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Just roll over the dead cat, right? Until it becomes part of the pavement. So they don't have to get out of their car and clean up their fucking shit that they created when they hit the cat, right? Because they're the ones who hit the cat. They're the ones who killed the cat. And they got their cleaning crew out there, not cleaning it, people. They just got it going over, running it over, back and forth, trying to hope that that dead cat just becomes part of the pavement if they run over it enough times. That's the way I interpret it. Okay. If I had to say what it feels like as into how I'm being treated with this whole situation. I don't write these words lightly. I write them because it's, in my opinion, true. Those are my experiences. This is what my family has had to face. This is what my grandchildren are going to have to face and be naive about what's in front of them. Do you see? That's the thing. They're naive. I'm not naive anymore. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentences. They weren't paragraphs, they were sentences. But there's 2 more that this individual failed to add in. So we're just going to read them. And then we're going to read the relief sought. This is what I wrote, okay? But we're going to read 152 and 153. We're just going to read it. Okay, the plaintiff alleges that the province of British Columbia and its various ministries has no moral compass to protect the citizens of British Columbia, Canada, and including the Chorney family, and that the legislation within the Parliament was only written in the favor for those who commit heinous crimes against innocent people, and including the Chorney family. And I say this from experience because I pulled out a whole whack. I don't have them in front of me right now. But when I wrote Uncle John's Notice of Civil Claim, I went through the Patient Property Act, the Power of Attorney Act, the Adult Guardianship Act, the Hospital Act, the Community Living rules and regulations, like a whole bunch of stuff, not to mention those things in the Criminal Code of Canada, which is all statutes, laws, and legislation. And they ignored everything, people, everything. But when they want to do something, they draw on those key points within those legislations to justify whatever it is that they do, which is why we have legislation. But where the issue is the bank didn't do what it did legitimately. Fraser Health didn't do what they did legitimately. John's sister Eleanor didn't do what she did legitimately because they thought that I was poor, dumb, and I don't know. They definitely went out of their way to try and create a basket case so I wouldn't catch up to them in terms of legislation, right? So no matter how much you think you know in regards to legislation, it doesn't benefit you, because as soon as you come to them with their legislation, they ignore it. And that's the point of refiling the lawsuits, right, over and over again, so that at some point somebody is going to have to get out of that car and clean up that dead freaking cat. Okay? Because right now they're just going back and forth, hoping that they don't have to get out of the freaking car and actually get their freaking hands dirty to clean up their mess. Okay? I didn't create this mess. They created this mess. And it's not like an isolated incident where it's just one person. We're talking about a whole family within a community. And we're not the only family that's going through this. Okay? 153. The plaintiff alleges that the province of British Columbia and their lawyers will use the words frivolous, scandalous, and a waste of the court's time to avoid taking responsibility for the permanent harm, injury, and deaths, more than one, right, that their government employees have forced upon the Chorney family, and including on Mr. John Duncan, to silence the plaintiff for speaking out. So not only do their employees retaliate against me, not only do bank employees that I don't know from Adam retaliate against me and falsify fucking records, but we also got the government itself retaliating against me, because if they weren't, they would address what I put in front of them, because it's not being done with malice. Right? But you see, they don't want to tweak the legislation. They want to keep it where it's at because it allows that assembly line of dead bodies to keep coming into the hospitals. They're not being shipped off to freaking butcher shops. They're going to hospitals where the system is already in place to take out what they want when they want on their own whims. And they can jimmy the books any which way they want. Okay? As they pretend that their legislation is fail-proof to protect the public. when in fact it's not fail-proof. Because if it was, they would acknowledge what I'm saying, and they don't. And that's why I keep coming back. Because if they don't acknowledge what I'm saying, make the wrong right, and make it so that other people aren't going to be subject to experience what I've experienced with my family, then yeah, they condone it, people. Who's in control? 600,000 government employees or 89 MLAs? Who do you think is in control? Relief sought. I didn't ask for much because I don't know what to ask for other than for justice. And where you see a wrong, make it right. Okay? Assign the name of Chorney to be listed on the birth certificate of Amari D. Johnson, because that's what SHAMAY wanted. She basically died for that, people. 155. Correct all or any medical files relating to Amari D. Johnson and SHAMAY Chorney that have been falsified and or altered to be misleading with misinformation. We've already been through that with Amari's medical files, okay? And I was just breezing over that. Didn't really sit down and study it, okay? But there's a few things that I can point out that will definitely hold the government to account in terms of falsified records or misleading information. And if you want that information, that misinformation to be corrected, I guess the process is you have to write something out, make reference to whatever it is that you're writing out, send it to the Freedom of Information office, have them, I think it's them that put it into the original file, but it never does remove the misinformation. So if you're somebody that's coming into a new file and the file is thick like that, and you're looking for information, but you don't want to read the whole file, I mean, it's another one of those kind of like roulette wheels, right? You know, you could be reading, come into that misinformation, convince yourself that what you're reading is true, read, and then decide to skip a few pages because you're getting tired of reading, and then you miss the new information that was added in there to correct the misinformation. You're still going to walk away biased because you never did read the correct information. Because that's a lot of information to read. Right? Which is kind of like defeats the purpose. If the file is falsified or it has misleading information, that misleading information should be removed. It should be removed and replaced with the correct information. In terms of, SHAMAY did not have a complicated pregnancy due to this, and this. That was put in there to reinforce that Amari was the way Amari was because of what SHAMAY did while being pregnant for 9 months, which is a bunch of crock. Because when you go further into it and you look at SHAMAY's files and you look at the history of Fraser Health Authority staff and their employees, you can clearly see that the gang stalking is even in the prenatal ward. Okay? In other words, Amari was injured at the time of his birth. It's one of those dead cats. They got more than one on the road that they keep running over back and forth, hoping that the problem would just go away. And because they're too fucking selfish to get out of their car and show respect to the dead cat that they killed. Because they hate cats. That's why they have no problem running over them back and forth a million times. Okay. 156. Order a proper and full investigation into the murder of SHAMAY Geraldine Chorney and to the cover-up of her murder so that illegal organ harvesting could occur without notice being paid to those who facilitate such gross and indecent illegal activities in the province of British Columbia, Canada. That is not a paragraph. That is a statement in a sentence asking for something. And then 157. Grant letter of administration to Judy Chorney over the affairs of SHAMAY Chorney. And then I can go get her medical clinic files. I can, without any files I want. Or do whatever I want. That would be what I'd want to do. Whereas the government can still get those files if they want to. And they can share them with me. If they're serious about ending illegal organ harvesting in the province of British Columbia, Canada. Assuming that they even acknowledge that exists. Being that they're in denial. Stuck with their foot on the gas pedal. 158. Reference court case. Number Vancouver Registry 469. And then 159. Same thing. Reference court case 468. So that would be Fraser Health Authority and CIBC Bank. Two separate court cases. Asked both corporations to give me $10 million. As if I'd get it. So, where the government sees a wrong, they need to make it right. Right? And what else can I say? So anyway, that's the end of this video. I just wanted to touch base on that. Right? It's not an easy subject, obviously. It's a little off the chart, obviously. They know it. That's what makes them so good at it. Because they know it's off the chart. And that's the thing about criminal activity. It goes on right underneath your noses. Right? When a thief comes into your house, do they stand there and let you know that they're going to steal from you and then wait for you to be looking at them, and they do it right in front of you so that your eye can actually see what they do? Or do they do it when you're not looking, or where they think that the hand is faster than the eye? And do you honestly believe that they're going to come back and be remorseful and tell you that they stole from you and give back what they took? No, they don't do that because they're thieves. No different than what's going on in the hospitals right now with bodies. SHAMAY is showing us a way. I'm going to end it on this too. Okay? You know I watch BitChute from time to time. And I was listening to Mike Adams on the InfoWars, right? And they were doing a live microscopy or something, where they were looking under this magnifying glass, like a microscope that had a high magnification, at the clots that were coming out of these people that were dropping dead with adult death syndrome. I think that's what they're labeling it now. Where adults are just suddenly dying, right? And, you know, their arteries and their blood veins are clogged up with not blood clots, but something else that's been created. And they're starting to look under the microscope, a special kind of microscope, to try and figure out what this stuff is. And as they're doing this, they're talking about that they're the voice of the dead, right? That they have to do this. It's their duty to do this because the dead people can't speak for themselves. right? They can show the way, but they can't speak for themselves. You have to, somebody has to speak for them. Well, it's the same thing with me and my family. Okay, Shamay is showing us the way, but she can't speak for herself. That's what I'm here for. Okay, so I'm going to continue speaking for my family, whether it's a freaking paragraph or a sentence at a time. Okay, I'm just saying.